9 months after launching Lean Canvas, I was stuck. Every month, we'd get 400 new signups and lose 300. That was just 100 users of net growth a month, and at that pace, we'd hit 10,000 users in 8 years. And what made it even worse is I saw other SaaS tools with worse UX growing like crazy. That's when I realized I was missing something right in front of me. A hidden growth lever built into every business, but most founders never see it. After working with over 1,000 startups, I've seen it again and again that the companies that scale fast aren't lucky, they have built their systematic growth rocket. In this video, I'll show you exactly how to find yours, and once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. Hi there, if you're new to this channel, my name is Maurya. I'm an entrepreneur and author and the creator of the popular one-page business modeling tool, Lean Canvas, used by millions of founders around the world. So let's get into it. Here's what I see with most startups. They hit a growth plateau and then get stuck. They throw money at ads, add more features, work 12-hour days, trying to optimize everything. That was me with Lean Canvas. We were optimizing landing pages, A/B testing email sequences, and trying every growth hack we could find, but no matter what we tried, we stayed stuck at that same 100 users per month. But here's what I learned. I was working on the wrong problem entirely. Growth wasn't something I needed to add to my business. It was already built into my business model. I just didn't know how to unlock it. And that's when I discovered growth loops and realized that Lean Canvas's cheat code had been staring at me the whole time. So here's what happened. I was analyzing our user behavior when I noticed something interesting. Founders were creating Lean Canvases and sharing them with their co-founders, which I expected, and also with their advisors and investors for feedback, which I underestimated. But let me start with the first. Every time someone shared a canvas, 2 to 3 team members would try to sign up and collaborate with them, but the problem was that we were charging per seat. So those team members would initially start using the canvas for a couple of weeks in the free trial period, and then they would cancel their account and the team would resort to sharing a single account. I realized our pricing model was creating needless friction and killing our natural growth loop. So we made a simple change. We got rid of the per seat pricing and created a founding team plan with a single price for up to 5 team members. And so that solved that problem. The second discovery, however, was even more powerful. The more startup founders use their Lean Canvases in coaching sessions and pitches, the more it spread to other founders, but indirectly through advisors and even investors. Investors were asking their portfolio companies to create Lean Canvases, and advisors were recommending it to multiple startups. So we doubled down on that insight and created a white label plan for advisors, startup accelerators, and investors so they could view and collaborate with multiple startups in their portfolio from a single account and see all their startups in a single dashboard view. We reached out to several dozen advisors, mentors, and investors who were already on the platform, and within 90 days, our growth rate went from 100 users a month to 1,000 a month. Same product, same market, but we just found our built-in growth cheat code and removed the friction that was unblocking it. Now, that experience taught me something crucial about how growth really works. Most founders think linearly: acquire customers, make them successful, and then magic happens. But successful businesses work more like systems, and growth comes from feedback loops. There are actually 2 systems that power every business model. A customer acquisition system, what I call the customer acquisition factory, that turns unaware visitors into trial or pilot users of a product, and a customer success factory that turns these users into happy paying customers. Growth loops come from building a feedback loop from your customer success factory to your customer acquisition factory. In simpler terms, future growth comes from the past actions of your existing happy customers. With Lean Canvas, every happy customer who shared their canvas in a coaching session or a pitch meeting was feeding prospects back into our customer acquisition factory. Okay, so let me next cover the different types of growth loops that there are. I've identified 3 fundamental types, and you can see this visually. These are the revenue growth loop, the referral growth loop, and the retention growth loop. Let's walk through each one in turn, starting with the revenue growth loop. This by far is the most common growth loop, and it's powered by reinvesting revenue from existing customers towards growth-driving activities. What you invest in will depend on your specific business model, but some examples are performance marketing or ads, hiring sales teams to scale up your customer acquisition factory, or hiring a team to do content generation to build up your top of the funnel awareness. Now, while everyone can do these things, the key is ensuring you make more money than you spend to make this growth loop sustainable. The next growth loop is the referral or viral growth loop. This growth loop is powered by happy customers who naturally share your product with other people. Dropbox mastered this. Users sharing files automatically invited recipients to join, and they used their now famous double incentive model where both parties got extra storage if they signed up. The key with this growth loop is finding a product where sharing is inherent to product usage and not an afterthought. Lean Canvas also benefited from this growth loop where the canvas became a social artifact that, when shared, spread even further. And finally, we have number 3, the retention growth loop. This growth loop is powered by some derivative asset or byproduct of happy customers that can be used to attract more prospect or users into the customer acquisition factory. Think user-generated content in the case of YouTube, user-curated artifacts in the case of Pinterest, or user-generated reviews and data in the case of Yelp and Waze. The content or data your happy customers create in your customer success factory feed more leads or prospects into your customer acquisition factory, and that's what powers this growth loop. Now here, to summarize, are 3 fundamental questions you can ask to reveal your growth loop. For the revenue loop, you can ask, how would you reinvest customer revenue to systematically acquire more customers? For the referral loop, you can ask, what do customers naturally want to share about your product, and how can you make that sharing easier? And for the retention loop, you can ask, what valuable content do users create that could attract new users into your factories? To make this even more concrete, let's look at one more example, this time using Steve's virtual reality platform. If you're new to this channel, Steve was building virtual reality tools for architects. Like a lot of technical founders, he was primarily focused on making the technology perfect until his startup coach, Maurya, asked him about his growth loop. This is what she asked him. Steve, when architects use your platform, what do they create that other architects might want or find interesting? Steve replied that, well, they create 3D models and VR experiences for specific clients, so he wasn't quite sure if that is something that other architects would want to share. And that's when Maurya revealed a key insight. Sure, their designs are proprietary, but what if you could incentivize them to share every 3D model object they create, like a piece of furniture or an appliance, in the design itself? What if your platform became a plug-and-play library of VR assets that other architects could use to speed up their rendering process? And that's when Steve saw it. Platform or network effects was the answer. Every architect who created VR models would make the platform even more valuable for every other architect if they could share that model in a public repository. Instead of building just a VR creation tool, Steve redesigned his platform around this idea, and that became his primary growth loop over time. Okay, so now that you understand the power of growth loops, you might be wondering if you should be building all these 3 growth loops at once. Now, while many companies do in fact build multiple growth loops at scale, for a startup, the key is finding and optimizing a single primary growth loop or growth rocket first. You counterintuitively go a lot faster by focusing on just a single growth rocket than spreading yourself thin across multiple half-done growth rockets. The job of your primary growth rocket is to propel your product to escape velocity or product market fit. After that, you can put more effort into evaluating and considering other growth loops if needed. Now, this begs the next question: how do you pick that primary growth rocket? Here are the steps. Step 1, map your customer factories out. Identify the key macro steps that make your customer acquisition and customer success factories work. And if you want a downloadable template for this, check the link in the description below. Next, step 2, measure your customer factories to shortlist some potential growth loop candidates. As I covered earlier, each growth loop requires certain conditions to be true for them to be sustainable. The way you know which growth loop could be your primary one is to measure the performance of your existing customer factory and look for promising signals. All else being equal, referral growth loops have the potential of growing the fastest. And so if you already see signals of natural word of mouth or referral rates above, say, 30%, that may be a strong signal to consider optimizing this loop. If your product has shareable artifacts built in as a common byproduct of usage, maybe consider the retention growth loop. And finally, if you're creating sufficient revenue from customers, it may be prudent to start exploring and testing the revenue growth loop using small experiments to start with. And that is a key part. Small scale experimentation is really the key to all of these growth loops, which is what step 3 is all about. Finding and optimizing your primary growth rocket. Once you find a promising growth rocket, you should set aside roughly 90 days to build and optimize it. This is because building a growth rocket takes effort and requires a lot of tuning. Running many small iterations or experiments is the best way to figure out if this is the right rocket to double down on. Okay, so what I've shared with you so far is how to identify and optimize your growth rocket once you have a product. But in the perfect world, some of this growth loop planning should ideally be done at the business modeling stage itself. Imagine you're building a rocket ship. Wouldn't it be helpful to know if you're aiming to land it on the moon or on Mars? Where and how far you intend to go defines your mission, and your mission in turn defines the strategies and tactics and timeline for your launch. The same is true with startups. Before getting knee-deep in product design, you should start with business model design, which in turn shortlists the right go-to-market strategies, tactics, and timeline for your product. So if you're an early stage startup founder and want to get your growth loop design in order, you should check out my business model design challenge, where I run weekly cohorts and walk early stage founders through a step-by-step process for identifying the best version of their ideas through 7 carefully curated series of stress tests. If you'd like to join the next cohort, you can find a link to the BMD challenge in the description below. Now, next week, I'm going to show you how to get your first $1,000 in revenue before building anything, and walk you through the pre-revenue validation method that proves customers will pay before you invest months in product development. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you next time. Until then, take care.